Hey everyone, in this tutorial I am going to show you how to do texture projection in Blender. I also created a new add-on called auto projection which helps reduce a lot of manual work. Of course, you can do texture projection manually, but that takes more time. And let's be honest, nobody wants extra work if we can avoid it, right? This add-on helps you get the result much faster. So this is a different workflow. Here is a 3D model and I rendered each view of the model. Actually, I used another add-on to generate these renders. In my previous video, I explained that in detail. If you want to learn that workflow, check the tutorial link in the description. Using the method, you can easily render the front, top and other views of the model. After getting those renders, I used AI to generate textures from them. So the idea now is simple. We are going to apply those textures to this model. Alright, let's get started. First, the model needs to be UV unwrapped. Since this model was generated with AI, it's already UV unwrapped, which is nice. One less headache for us. I'm going to rename this UV map as main UV. If your model doesn't have UVs, you definitely need to unwrap it first. But in this case, we are already good to go. So, step 1 is creating projection UVs. Inside the add-on, you will see an option called Create Projection UV. What it does, it automatically creates UV maps for each view and unwrap them using projection from view. Let's see how it works. It's easier to understand once you see it in action. There is also an option called UV scale. For this example, I'm going to set the scale to 1. Now I will click create projection UVs. It will take a little time, so please don't click anywhere. Blender sometimes gets sensitive and might crash. Uh, Trust me, I learned this the hard way. You will get a notification here once the UVs are ready. Okay, done. Now if we go to UV editing, you can see that with scale set to 1, the UVs fit perfectly in the layout. Now we can check back or right, left, top and bottom UVs. If you do this manually, you would need to rotate the view, press U and select project from view for every single direction. And yes, you have to repeat that for each view. That's why this add-on exists to save us from doing the same thing again and again. Next, we will load the image source. I'm going to select the image folder path and then click accept. There is an option called auto detect image. When enabled, the add-on will automatically detect all the images. If you prefer, you can also select them manually, totally up to you. Now we need to create the final texture image. This idea is that we will combine all these UV projections into a single texture map. The add-on can also create this image automatically. I am going to set the resolution to 4K because I want good quality. Then I click setup projection material and tada! We now have a single texture image. Of course, you could also create this manually by adding an image texture and creating a new 4K image. But again, the add-on saves time by doing it automatically. Now this part is very important. We are going to use texture paint. Blender needs to know which UV corresponds to which image. So this object here is just a dummy holder for those images. You can move it anywhere you want, but do not delete it. Seriously, if you delete it, Blender will forget everything and you will be very confused for the next 10 minutes. Now, we will do a tilt verification. Press Ctrl plus Shift and click and you can preview each texture projection. But you can see the texture doesn't fit properly. That is because we set the scale to 1 but the image has different scale. No problem, we can fix this. Select everything and scale it manually until it fits correctly. Then copy the scale values, go back to the layer and paste those values in the UV scale field. Now click create projection UVs again. This takes a little time again, so just wait. What this does is apply the corrected scale to apply all projection UVs automatically. If you were doing this manually, you would need to adjust each UV separately, which would be very annoying. And we got the notification. Now let's check again. Back view, right view, everything looks correct. Always double check this. Sometimes small manual adjustments are still needed. Add-ons are helpful, but never test them 100%. Always trust your eyes first. Now for the final step. First, make sure the main UV is selected because all textures will be baked into this UV map. Then switch to texture paint. In the shading tab, make sure the final texture image is selected. If it's not selected, texture painting will not work. Now choose the clone brush. In the tool settings, enable clone from paint slot. Once you enable it, you will see the all projection textures available. That's why we kept the dummy object earlier. If you delete it, these options disappear. Each image corresponds to its correct UV map, like top, bottom, left, right, and so on. Now we can start painting. I usually start with bottom and top views first. Press Ctrl plus A to go to the bottom view. You will notice the brush size is very large. Large brushes can cause lag or even crashes. So I recommend setting the brush size around 30 to 40. So now we can start painting. First the bottom view and done. Next select the top picture. Press 7 to go to the top view and paint it. Next, we will do the left and right side. Sometimes I still get confused which is the left and which is the right. So don't worry if that happens to you too. Press 3 for right view and then the Control plus for left view. Now paint carefully. You need a bit of patience here because you don't want to affect the top or bottom picture. Also try to avoid black patches since it is textures or AI generated, they won't match perfectly. Just try to blend them as best as possible. If black patches appear, paint slowly and adjust carefully. Yes, this process can be a little slow and sometimes painful, but hopefully in the future we can build even smaller tools to automate this even more. Now I will reduce the brush strength and slightly to blend the texture better, and that's the idea. Once you finish these small edits, you will get the final picture result. Now we can save this picture. Whether is already trying to save it, but I am going to save it manually just to be safe. You know, computers sometimes have their own areas. And then save the picture, and that's it. Now we have the final picture, and you can use this picture anytime on this model or even on other similar models. So this is the complete workflow. So if you want this add-on, check the link in the description. Thanks for watching and see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.